Short Term 12 is a film, I'll be honest, I really knew nothing about. My partner bought it on Blu-ray because she really wanted to see it, and once I had a read of the back, I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll give that a go. It's basically an indie drama that follows the characters of Grace, played by Brie Larson, who you might recognise from the show Community, and Mason, John Gallagher Jr., who work, they're a couple who work in what's called Short Term 12, and this is like the sort of care home or holding pen for children in the States who've been taken into care by the government, and it's where they sort of wait while the government decides where to put them, be it into foster care or maybe even up for adoption. It's like the sort of temporary home while it's decided what's going to happen to them. They work there and they come into contact with a troubled teenage girl, Jaden, who starts to live there. And really it's about how Jaden it affects their lives once they've met. So the film itself, I must admit, it sounded interesting to me because while we've had, kids in care movies before and dramas and stuff like that, it's something that you've not really seen addressed before, at least I haven't. It might have been, but I've not seen any movies where it really establishes and sort of tackles what happens to children when they are taken initially into care, and how it's decided what's going to happen to them and what they have to do and stuff like that. So I thought that was quite interesting. Really, the film itself, I will admit, when it started, I looked at it and I thought, it's shot very sort of low-key, it's quasi-documentary, shaky cam feel. It looks like every other indie drama that's ever been made. It has that style, and I know that style basically makes the film sometimes, look sort of more impressive and expensive than it actually is. But I started watching it and I was thinking, it's going to be just another sort of indie drama. I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but it's not going to do anything special. It's going to fit that mould, blah, blah, blah. I am to a certain extent eating my words on that one, because I did really enjoy this movie a lot more than I expected to, and I think I actually liked it more than my partner did. So here's what I liked. The performances around all across the board are really, really good. There are no weak links in this movie. Everybody has a very sort of naturalistic feel, because it is a sort of quasi-documentary feel to it, with how it's shot. So all the performances feel very natural, as does the chemistry between all the actors. You sort of believe that these people have all sort of worked or lived together for however long, and we do have great chemistry. Brie Larson is great as Grace. She gives a very, very multi-layered performance, and I will say this, over the course of the movie, Grace makes some decisions and says some things that I thought, wow, you are horrible. But as it goes on, and this is really a testament not only to Brie Larson, but also the writer-director, who is, I'm going to have to read the name off here because it's not somebody I'm familiar with, Destin Daniel Cretton. I think you do find with these sort of indie dramas that normally the director will have more names than films they've actually made. But it's a testament to the writing and direction, as well as Brie Larson's performance, that while Grace does say some pretty reprehensible things at times throughout the movie, they manage to keep her being sort of likeable and lovable and vulnerable to a certain extent, because you do sort of learn what Grace has been through previously and how that has impacted her character now, and it sheds new light on some decisions and some of the way she acts over the course of the movie. New light is shed on that as you learn more about her character. So I thought, they got away with that, and they sort of, I don't want to say justified, but clarified the reasons behind some of her actions. So that's down, like I said, to her performance and the writing and directing. The character of Mason, her partner, I did think, I must admit, while some of the plot twists in this movie you can see coming, and a couple of them you can see where it's going, they do manage to sidestep some cliches, and one of which is the character of Mason, because he is the sort of lovable, shaggy-haired, bearded guy who's, quite funny and a bit dopey and stuff like that. And I was watching this going, he's going to turn out to be a complete dick. That's where I thought his character was going. But no, they actually keep him being lovable and a genuinely really nice character. So they managed to sidestep certain cliches. That's just one. which I did appreciate, but by the same token, as I've just mentioned, there are certain plot beats and narrative beats and character beats that you do see coming. The character of Jaden, the troubled teenage girl that joins the group, the performance is really good. The actress playing her is really good, and I also really like the dynamic between her character and Grace. They have a lot in common, and this is another sort of minor criticism in that they don't just have little bits in common and find common ground that way. They've literally got like almost the same backstory, and while I understand that the filmmakers obviously wanted to draw a parallel between Jaden and Grace, it is a little bit sort of on the nose that they have almost, the same things that have happened to them previously. So it's very much like, oh, Grace is Jaden in a few years if she goes down the right path. And I get that that's what they were trying to do, but I think there were probably more subtle ways that they could have etched out those characters, but that's a very sort of minor thing. That's just something, it didn't even occur to me while I was watching it, but afterwards, while I was sort of preparing for this review, that's something that occurred to me. So it doesn't spoil the film in any way like that, because I didn't notice it while I was watching the movie, but that's something I thought was worth mentioning, because while the film, it does have quite a lot of subtlety to it, sometimes it is quite on the nose as well. But that was a very sort of minor thing. The style did grow on me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the style itself, the shaky cam quasi-documentary feel. There's nothing wrong with that, but you've seen it in every other indie film. But it did sort of grow on me after a while. The film itself, it is good, and I quite like the point it sort of makes over, if you've been through something traumatic or some element of abuse, it's how you sort of react to that that can really sort of pave out what your life's going to be, and also, how that sort of history can impact on your current relationships and stuff like that. So, the themes of this movie are very sort of mature and adult, if you will, and it does tackle them really well and really sort of thoughtfully, because I think, with a film like this and subject matter like that, you do have to be careful with how you sort of treat that subject matter, because obviously this is something that sadly happens to a lot of people. It's shit, but it's the world that we live in, unfortunately. But I thought it treated the subject matter very respectfully, and managed to sort of, out of that, draw some really, realistic three-dimensional characters who you do grow to love over the course of the movie. So, in terms of the film, it did surprise me how much I liked this movie. It's quite possibly in my top 10 of the year. I know I sound like I've probably criticised it quite a bit. It's not a perfect film, but I did really enjoy it. I think because these sort of indie dramas are a dime a dozen, to find one that does so carefully tackle this type of subject matter and also have such good, well-rounded performances across the board, almost everything about this movie is really great. It could have done to be a bit more subtle, but that's really sort of by the by. I would recommend it, if you're a fan of like a low-key drama, it's definitely worth throwing on. I actually think it's on the UK Netflix at the minute, so you can watch it for free, so you have no excuse not to watch this movie. I did really enjoy it, and I would highly recommend it. I'm looking forward to seeing what this director does next, as well as what Brie Larson does next, because I think that Community is the only other thing I've seen her in. But she's very, very sort of likeable in this for the most part, but she's obviously a very talented actress, so I'm interested to see what she goes on to do next. So yeah, Short Term 12, I must admit I really enjoyed.